Host asks, "Who truly created this?" You won't believe the touching truth revealed by the maid. In the opulent haze of Robert's mansion, the laughter rang hollow in Sarah's ears, a jarring contrast to the grandeur that surrounded her. She stood in the dim light, clutching her cleaning cloth like a lifeline, an uninvited specter among the elite art collectors. Each vibrant stroke on a canvas, a world she longed to embrace, beckoned from the walls, filled with dreams she feared could never reach her. Today, however, the air crackled with a different energy, one that sent adrenaline coursing through her veins, making her heart thump painfully against her ribs. Her mind raced. How did I get here? The corners of her reality, painted in shades of duty and sacrifice for her siblings, seemed to conspire against her burgeoning desire to create. She felt the whispers of her life's obligations curling around her, reminding her that cleaning and caretaking were all she'd ever known. Yet within her, a flicker of rebellion ignited, urging her to defy those limits and the expectations that accompanied them. Those were the thoughts she tried to silence as she wiped down surfaces, each swipe of the cloth weighed down by fear and guilt for dreaming of a life crafted from color and creativity. Before she could gather her thoughts, Robert strode by, the air thickening with his presence. The way he spun in and out of conversations about art, as if it were merely trading cards, sent an ugly twist to her stomach. All around them, the guests discussed pieces she could only admire from a distance. She felt the weight of their laughter directed at her, and her face flushed, knowing they saw her as nothing more than the maid. They nod and smirk at her afterthought of a life, their sneers cutting deeper than any brush stroke. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then, the moment unfolded as she allowed her brush to linger upon a neglected corner of a forgotten canvas. She was lost in color, her heart intertwined with every hue until Robert's sharp gaze pierced through her trance. The realization of who she could be rushed in a destructive wave. Caught between his world and her own, dread seeped into her bones. If she showed him her art, would he cross that line, or would he exploit her? What did it matter if he recognized her talent as long as it came at the cost of everything she held dear? Doubt crushed her chest as memories of her siblings' smiles flashed through her mind. Nothing mattered but their security, but could she ever forgive herself for abandoning the chance to embrace her craft? It was a risk one she had not been prepared to take. She felt the weight of ambitions lost in whispers as they echoed in the lavish surroundings, a poignant reminder that someone else's brilliance was celebrated, while hers remained hidden in the shadows. As Robert approached, determination mingling with desperation in her heart, she stood at the precipice of a decision that could alter her fragile existence. Caught between her dreams and her family, the storm of uncertainty roared within her, leaving her longing for clarity. Who truly created this moment of truth? As shadows danced on the walls, the tangled thread of their relationship threatened to unravel, leaving Sarah suspended, waiting for a sign to either step into the light or fade into the background of someone else's story. The air crackled with tension as Robert's intense gaze settled on Sarah. Her heart hammered, a rapid tempo that amplified the vulnerability echoing within her. What if he asked about the brushstrokes? What if he perceived the flicker of passion hidden in her work? She had practiced so long in the shadows that the mere thought of exposure felt like standing naked before a crowd. The room pulsed with the throaty laughter of art aficionados, their chatter a jagged hum that seemed to rise and fall in waves, lapping against her resolve. With a flick of her cloth, she attempted to wipe down the remnants of her hesitance, yet every motion felt futile against the flood of uncertainty. Here, surrounded by paintings and their creators, she had always felt less than. When had she last entertained the idea of being seen as anything other than a support? Today, though clarity sliced through her thoughts like the piercing sun through the canopy of trees outside, art wasn't just for the privileged. It was for anyone who dared to breathe life into a canvas. The vulnerability of being both artist and maid revolved in her mind. She couldn't pigeonhole herself into roles that were handed down like worn family heirlooms. Opportunity might never come again. If she missed this moment, How many more would slip through her fingers, hidden beneath the monotonous tasks of others' lives? As Robert approached, she felt herself teetering between two futures. One neatly boxed away, where she dutifully attended to the mansion and its guests, and another, entwined with danger and enlightenment, where she might embrace the artistry that stirred so deeply within her. His voice, smooth yet edged with authority, broke through her turmoil like a knife through fog. "What do you think of this piece?" he asked, gesturing towards the striking colors of a nearby painting that seemed to vibrate with energy. For once, Sarah didn't just hear the question. She felt it nestle deeply into her core, igniting the dormant warrior inside. I think it reflects a longing," she found herself replying, surprising even herself. The fear that had clutched at her throat began to loosen. There's a desperation in the strokes, as if the artist is reaching out for something unattainable. Robert stared, perhaps surprised at her insight. Was there a flicker of intrigue in his eyes? Or was it merely the sheen of superiority over what he deemed the unrefined perspective of the help? Either way, an opening widened just a crack, allowing a rush of courage into her trembling heart. "Interesting take," he replied, tipping his head thoughtfully, almost resembling genuine curiosity. "Perhaps you could join me in discussing it?" Join him. The suggestion sent shivers down her spine, both thrilling and terrifying. To engage with him, to exchange thoughts beyond the limitations of her cleaning cloth, it felt like a leap into an abyss. Her mind raced with visions of secrecy and exposure, each thought a sharp turn on the roller coaster of her spiraling ambition. What if she could someday reveal not just her interpretations but her own creations? Was this the spark she had yearned for? Or just a flicker of false hope? As Robert pivoted to chat with the gallery owner, the fleeting moment of connection lingered like the scent of freshly painted canvases. Sarah was left alone with her burgeoning desires and the whispers of doubt nagging at the edges of her consciousness. This could change everything. Her mind spun with possibilities, each one brighter than the last, yet darker always loomed the uncertainty of her siblings' needs. They were waiting for her. They needed her strength to guide them through their struggles. The duality of her existence warred within her. She had been molded into a caretaker, but was it time now to claim her right to create? Without warning, the decision stood before her like an unfinished canvas. This moment of fracture in the timeline of her life offered a glimpse into a new realm of potential and risk. As this internal battle raged, the laughter of the guests grew louder, resonating against the walls like a judgment. Before she could dampen her spirit, she realized that she was standing at a crossroads, a point where fear and aspiration blissfully collided. With each breath, she fought through layers of past limitations that clung desperately to her. What decision would carry her into the light of self-affirmation and artistry? As Robert smiled at a passing guest, Sarah's resolve surfaced. She would no longer cower beneath the shadows of illusion. A faint whisper fluttered inside, urging her to confront not only Robert, but the woman she had concealed all these years. The moment had arrived. With her heart racing, she took a step forward, ready to unearth not only her talent, but to dismantle the very insecurities that had confined her for so long. But with that decision, the question loomed like a specter. Would she be ready for the consequences of owning her voice, or would the weight of her familial obligations keep her bound to a life of quiet desperation? The world around her blurred as Sarah took that step. Every sound faded into a monotonous drone, leaving her heart to beat a petrifying rhythm in her chest. This was at the moment she had both yearned for and feared. She collected herself, drawing forth every ounce of determination hidden beneath the layers of doubt. "Robert," she called, her voice steadying as she approached him, fighting against the weighty anticipation that clawed at her insides. He turned, curiosity etched across his features. "I'd like to discuss the painting." The fleeting flash of surprise in his eyes quickly morphed into a playful smirk, as if he found her enthusiasm quaint. Yet it didn't deter her. He was merely a person, no different than the others in the room. She could engage with him, exchange ideas, and maybe even challenge his perceptions. But what lingered heavily in her mind was the risk of Amanda and Carter, of losing herself in the pursuit of creativity. "So you have more to say?" Robert coiled back into a more relaxed stance, his casual demeanor setting a stark contrast to the tempest swirling within her. "Art can reflect not only beauty, but also the hidden struggles of the artist," she replied, her tone firm. "It can capture moments we often try to hide." With that simple acknowledgement, she sensed a tether shatter. Her voice grew bolder, imbued with fragments of passion she had long repressed. Desire sparked in Robert's gaze, perhaps driven by a mix of genuine wonderment and an instinctual need to understand. "Interesting," he said, tilting his head with a newfound attentiveness. "I never thought of it that way. Who are you, really?" The question fell like a pebble into her self-crafted pond of identity, sending ripples of introspection and incredulity surging through her. Who was she? All these years, she had been a mere spectator in the grand theater of artistry, existing to aid rather than create. "I'm just Sarah the maid," she replied, but even as the words left her lips, they tasted bitter and insufficient. "Just Sarah?" he questioned, an eyebrow arched in skepticism. "Is that all there is to you? You have a perceptive eye, it seems." The quiet laughter of the gallery drifted around them, and for a moment, she felt exposed again, unraveled as if her vulnerabilities hung in the air like unwanted portraits. Yet, the longer she considered the exchange, the more resolute she became. She could be more than just what others labeled her. She just needed to step into that definition. "Perhaps it's time for me to redefine what just means," she declared, firming her stance. The moment of revelation wrapped itself around her like a warm embrace. This discussion could very well be the gateway into not just her world, but also into the hearts of others. It was the first act of defiance against becoming an extension of someone else's success. "Interesting," Robert mused again, his gaze narrowing thoughtfully. The way he looked at her shifted. It transformed from distant judgment to a genuine exploration. "What are you prepared to do about it?" Could she venture down a path of risk where failure loomed like dark storm clouds? Sarah sensed her voice tremble in response, mimicking the uncertainty of that choice. Yet, standing there, she felt a surge of potency gathering in her fingertips, awash with the distinct possibility of creation. "I want to pursue my art," she said, each word balanced on a fine thread of courage. "To create as much as I care for others." He nodded as if digesting her assertion. "Then what's holding you back? Your talent deserves to be recognized." His question lingered, an echo of her own fears. The delicate strings of familial obligation tugged at her heart, but the flames of ambition flickered defiantly against their weight. Would she allow their expectations to drown out her voice? The time had come to evaluate what path she was willing to carve, whether to remain hidden in the background, or to step into the spotlight. "You," she started, summoning her remaining resolve, "may have seen one facet of me, but I am ready to share the many colors that lie beneath." Their eyes locked, and for the first time Sarah didn't shy away. Instead, she stood tall, a mere maid confronting the boundaries of her world, ready to forge her identity. But as the moment stretched, a new fear rushed in. What would happen if she dared to create? Could her emerging artistry thrive among expectations that threatened to bind her to the past? Was she prepared to unveil this new facet of herself not only to Robert, but to everyone living in her shadow? A rush of adrenaline coursed through her veins, urging her forward. A fleeting thought danced in her mind. Could this be the moment everything changed? With anticipation thick in the air, Sarah felt her heart brace for the challenge ahead, wresting control over her own narrative. With one line drawn in the sands of her identity, she knew she had but one choice left to make. Would she embrace the unfolding potential or succumb to the safety of her previous existence? The echoes of possibility loomed, pregnant with uncertainty, but she was ready to articulate her truth. The conversation, electric and alive, left them both poised on the brink. The air crackled with anticipation, yet a shadow of doubt crept into Sarah's thoughts. As she stood face to face with Robert, the gravity of her proclamation threatened to crush her newfound resolve. Would she really take that step? Beyond this moment lay a vast expanse of silence she had always feared. She couldn't turn back, not now, not ever. "Art," she began again, voice steadying, "is not merely a reflection. It's an act of rebellion against anonymity. I want to be recognized not only for what I do but for who I am." The intensity in Robert's gaze shifted, burdened by the weight of unspoken narratives. He leaned forward, intrigued, pushing her to unfurl her myriad colors. But with every word she spoke, fragments of her past stirred like ghosts, urging her to maintain her silence. Could she truly break free from the chains of expectation? In that surreal moment she craved validation. If I share my vision, I will also share my vulnerability, she admitted, the weight of her confession palpable. Art demanded courage, and the risk of exposure sent a chill through her veins. What if they reject it? She whispered, almost reluctantly. The fear nearly drowned her burgeoning confidence, as reflections of Amanda's harsh critiques swirled around her mind. Would her family see her merely as a maid, a servant forever relegated to the background? Then they reject a part of you, Robert replied, his tone gentle yet firm. But that doesn't diminish your value. Recognize this. There are no limits to who you can be. Why should anyone dictate your identity? His words hung in the air like a haunting melody she had always known but never truly heard. She searched his eyes for judgment but found only understanding. He was right. This was her moment to forge a new path, no longer bound by their vision of who she should be. I need to create, she declared, inhaling deeply. The fire of determination ignited within her, but she grappled with the stark realization of its implications. What would her family think? Would their reaction dim her light once more? Then where do you start? He asked, encouragingly tilting his head, a glimmer of excitement lighting his features. Sarah thought about it, weighing the enormity of the venture before her. She had avoided her art for years, a protective measure against uncertainty. But art, when embraced, illuminated truth. The echoes from the canvases she had filled with dreams seared her thoughts with urgency. I need to paint, she said, her voice rich with newfound conviction. I want to paint my world how I see it. It's time to turn the expectations of others into strokes of clarity. The prospect exhilarated her. As she spoke, she envisioned colors swirling, capturing the essence of her experiences, moments hidden behind the facade she wore so comfortably. The thought of squeezing paint tubes and feeling the brush glide against the canvas sent a thrill through her, a reminder of who she once was before she succumbed to roles dictated by others. Do you want to showcase it? Robert's inquiry felt like an electric current surging through her, sparking her imagination further. The idea took root, defying the limits she had placed on herself. She could amplify her voice through her art. I do, she found herself responding without hesitation, the choice crystallizing in her mind. The revelatory realization settled in her chest. This pursuit wasn't merely about recognition. It was about authenticity, about encompassing all the contradictions that made her whole. But as excitement surged, another layer of doubt crept in. What if her work was ridiculed? What if it prompted the judgments from Amanda and her family that she had long dreaded? Would stepping into her truth also mean pushing away those she loved? A tortured smile flickered on her lips as the weight of the choices ahead pressed heavily upon her. She could envision working late into nights, losing herself in the vibrancy of colors, a world where her heart spoke through the brush. Yet she remained tethered by fear. Exposing yourself can be frightening, Robert acknowledged, perceiving her hesitation. But consider, what if your art inspires someone? What if it brings comfort or understanding to someone feeling just as you once did? With that thought, the significance of her decision crystallized. It wasn't solely about her fears. It was about giving voice to others who felt unseen. Resilient and trembling, she realized this path was not only about her identity, but about dismantling the barriers she had unknowingly reinforced around herself. Having echoed her truth aloud, another question surged unbidden. How would she respond to the inevitable backlash if it came? Could she fortify herself against the storm of doubt? As these uncertainties lingered, an unexpected clarity emerged. Daring to paint her feelings could ignite more than just a personal journey, it might release her profound need to connect deeper. At that moment, Sarah sensed this dialogue with Robert marked the dawn of something transformative. She felt as though she stood on a precipice, an exhilarating fall waiting if she allowed herself to leap. Overwhelmed by emotion, she pondered, what if her leap reshaped not only her own identity but the expectations laid upon her? Locked in contemplation, she knew she had one choice remaining. Would she embrace her truth fully, or would she retreat into the protective shadows? As she caught Robert's gaze again, the thrill of reckless possibility hung thick in the air. And in that moment, she realized the choice before her might finally unshackle the artist lying dormant within. Was she ready to face not just her fear, but also a world prepared to challenge her burgeoning identity? As the answer whispered at the edges of her mind, Sarah's pulse quickened once more. Her journey had only just begun. The evening sky deepened into shades of vibrant indigo, echoing the internal conflicts swirling within Sarah's mind. As she left Robert's studio, a fresh resolve pulsed through her veins, but so did a torrent of doubts. Each heartbeat echoed her commitment to finally step into her authenticity. Yet, the looming specter of her family's judgment threatened to swallow her whole. It was not simply about painting, it was about redefining her entire being, in a way she had never dared to do before. Determined to push past the anxiety, she ventured back home, the familiar bustle of the neighborhood serving as a stark contrast to the chaos within her. She could almost feel her old self straining against her constraining life as a maid, as if it were squeezing her even tighter. But the prospect of retrieval, the action of reclaiming herself, filled her with both fear and exhilaration. In her small cluttered room, the scent of old paint and canvas beckoned to her. She paused before her easel, a relic of her dreams yet to be realized. The tools of her craft lay dormant, brushes still waiting like loyal soldiers for their call to arms. Could she really transform her lingering doubts into vivid expressions on canvas? What if the art she created was a mirror reflecting all the scars she believed should remain hidden? With a decisive breath, she set about organizing her space. Each movement became a meditation, an acknowledgement of her commitment to her growth. She dispelled the clutter of her life just as she hoped to remove the clutter in her mind, each swept brushstroke of dust feeling like a slice through the fabric of her old identity. As she released pent-up breath, Sarah gathered her courageous thoughts, envisioning her journey as a new color palette, a blend of her fears, experiences, and hopes. The tentative excitement bubbling within her felt foreign yet invigorating. She picked up a brush, and her fingers trembled messily against the slick paint tubes. With eyes wide open, she began mixing the colors, a fierce crimson blending into soft blues as she replicated fragments of her past, a chaos transformed into harmony. She worked tirelessly through the night. The strokes became more assertive, each line an assertion of her narrative, a declaration of her identity. Suddenly, the brush was not just a tool. It was an extension of her spirit, channeling everything she kept at bay: the hurt, the anger, the yearning for validation. Within the swirls of paint, she felt the ghost of vulnerability morph into something powerful and alive. Yet, the gnawing question bubbled to the surface again. If she showcased her work, would it be accepted? Would it invite ridicule, echoing Amanda's voices of dismissal? Would her family see her first as a painter before they recognized her as their daughter? The fear intertwined with her newfound bravado, weaving a tapestry of both self-doubt and the burgeoning hope to shatter expectations. As the sun poured through her window the next morning, highlighting every fleck of her chaotic but beautiful creation, Sarah took a step back. The canvas revealed layers of depth that mirrored her life, a story resplendent with contradictions, aspirations, and truths tending towards clarity. The painting was not just a display of her artistic skill. It bore raw testimony to her journey. But self-realization enlivened new questions. Was she willing to confront the inevitable hostility from her past? What personal revelations awaited her if she dared to step into her truth? Sarah's pulse quickened in anticipation of the confrontation, both invigorating and terrifying as it promised self-discovery on an unprecedented scale. One last thought echoed loudly as she faced her work. If she took this leap, it signaled a break not only from her past roles but also from the expectations that defined her family. Could she bear the weight of those revelations? Standing before the canvas, she knew she had crossed a critical threshold. Her journey had evolved into something vast and tumultuous, compelling her to not only confront herself, but the entire landscape of her relationships. Will Sarah have the courage to share her art, even when it could risk everything familiar, both for herself and her loved ones? As she considered the next step, the vibrant colors rested quiet, yet ready to spark an entire world of change. She was about to find out what embracing the unseen truly meant. The following days were a whirlwind of both triumph and turmoil for Sarah. After the euphoria of creating her first painting, a haunting desire to showcase it enveloped her. It was not merely about sharing art. It was an invitation for the world and her family to see her truth. Every brushstroke on that canvas felt like a revelation, yet revealing it to others felt akin to stepping into an open flame. The thrill of potential acceptance mingled with the sting of anticipated rejection. As she struggled with the thought of unveiling her work, a relentless rhythm of questions filled her mind. What if her family dismissed her ambition as childish? Could the fragile link she shared with them withstand her transformation? The ridicule she had faced from Amanda loomed large, a dark cloud lingering in her thoughts. Each memory tightened the knot in her stomach, demanding resolution even as it terrified her. In a flicker of inspiration, Sarah decided to create a series of smaller pieces, sketches that captured snippets of her turbulent thoughts and emotions. She envisioned them as stepping stones toward her bigger reveal, a gradual exposure of her artistic self. The process allowed her to explore different mediums and styles, challenging her notions of creativity and sparking unexpected confidence. Each completed sketch fortified her with the knowledge that she was more than just a maid, that she was capable of so much more. However, with this growth came a new challenge. Each brushstroke mirrored her psyche, and with every piece she completed, she found herself confronting more deeply rooted insecurities. Could she sustain this momentum? Or would her fear drown her progress like a rising tide? One evening, a rush of spontaneity propelled her to pursue an opportunity to showcase her work at a local art cafe, a small venue renowned for promoting emerging artists. The heartbeat of the city pulsed vibrantly outside her window as she submitted her application, a silent pact between her aspirations and fears. Suddenly, the thought of exposing herself to her peers felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Her heart raced, racing towards a point of catharsis. The day began with a meditation-like tranquility as she prepared for the upcoming event, but as the hours crept by, the stillness turned into a tempest of doubt. What was she thinking? This was reckless, a childish fantasy. A voice within whispered harsh realities, every negative comment hurled by Amanda and the silence from her family echoed as a chorus, asking her to step back into obscurity. As twilight settled outside, Sarah donned her favorite outfit, a symbol of her commitment to authenticity. She caught her reflection in the mirror and paused, confronting the woman staring back at her, the artist intertwined with fear and ambition. Her fingers traced the edges of her canvas, a silent promise binding her to a new path. The cafe bustled with energy as she arrived, but the weight of her insecurities intensified. She watched fellow artists displaying their pieces, their confidence juxtaposing her guarded vulnerability. They seemed so assured, their laughter and camaraderie a stark contrast to her isolation. As she approached her designated area, a stranger caught her eye. A middle-aged woman, someone who radiated warmth, smiled kindly as she gestured toward Sarah's work. "This is beautiful," she said, her voice soothing in the cacophony around them. "Who created this?" The question hung in the air, igniting a flare of uncertainty. Would she tell the truth about the timid maid behind the canvas? Or would she shield her identity under layers of decorum? Standing at this critical juncture, Sarah faced the defining question of her journey. Could she embrace the artist within and risk revealing the vulnerable parts of herself? The choice lay heavy within her chest as she breathed in the vibrant energy surrounding her. The moment was upon her, her chance to redefine the narrative of her life. Would she sink back into the shadows, or would she boldly speak her truth, exposing herself to both criticism and acceptance? The answer to that question loomed, promising to ripple through every aspect of her existence, casting the ultimate light on the path ahead. Sarah inhaled deeply, the air thick with the scent of coffee and possibility. Her heart raced, teetering on the edge of a profound realization. The woman's question hung in the air, inviting her to step beyond the threshold of self-doubt. For a moment she hesitated, caught between the faint whispers of insecurity and the burgeoning flame of her creative spirit. The uncertainty that engulfed her seemed the culmination of years spent tiptoeing around her aspirations. With each passing second her thoughts spiraled, battling against the tether of her past. Did she want to be a maid who secretly painted, or could she be an artist worthy of acknowledgement? "Thank you," she managed to say, her voice steadying despite the tempest within. The warmth of the woman's smile sparked an ember of courage inside her. "I created this." The words felt foreign, yet they resonated in a way that stirred something deep within her, a catalyst for change. The woman leaned in closer, genuine interest radiating from her. "What inspired you? There's so much emotion here." In that instant, Sarah recognized that she wasn't merely sharing a canvas. She was unraveling threads of her identity. As she began to speak, words flowed out, laden with the weight of her experiences, the yearning for acceptance, the joy of creating, the fear of rejection. Each sentence stripped away layers of her defenses, revealing more than just paint and canvas. She was laying bare her very soul. As she spoke, she noticed the cafe patrons turning their attention toward her. The anticipation thickened in the air, tethering her to a reality she could hardly fathom yet craved desperately. For the first time she felt emboldened, not just an observer but a participant in her own story. The warmth of the woman's gaze turned into something more, a quiet acknowledgement that sparked a sense of belonging. Had she found her first ally? Someone who understood her struggle to emerge from the shadows? Around her, the conversations faded into background noise, replaced by the hum of her own thoughts. Exposure, she realized, was a double-edged sword. As she peeled back the layers of her identity, she also exposed herself to potential rejection. Her childhood fears resurfaced momentarily. Amanda's cruel words echoed in her mind, but Sarah forced herself to silence that inner critic. She straightened her back, her gaze unwavering. Art is more than just a hobby for me, it's my voice. It's how I navigate the world, how I process pain and joy. With each proclamation, her confidence bloomed, feeding off the energy of the room and the intrigue in the woman's eyes. Beautiful, the woman replied, captivated. We need voices like yours. Are you interested in collaborating? The proposition stunned Sarah, weighing the enormity of such an opportunity against the limitations of her past. Could she really fuse her art with community expression, allowing her voice to flourish beyond these four walls? As enthusiasm sparked deep within, Sarah glimpsed a path, one that could lead her closer to her dreams. Here was a chance not just to showcase her art, but to connect with others who shared her journey. Yet the thought of what lay ahead, the boldness needed to step into this realm of collaboration, sent shivers coursing through her. Of course I'd love to, she replied, surprising even herself with the conviction in her tone. But as the excitement curled around her, another voice crept in. What if she wasn't enough? In that moment, the cafe felt both intimate and overwhelming. Tension danced between hope and fear. Would this new pathway open doors? Or would it launch her into a world where vulnerability bred criticism? As thoughts collided, she realized that stepping into this new role was not merely a professional decision, but a personal transformation. Yet the looming insecurities whispered in her mind, could she sustain this newfound purpose? With her heart racing, Sarah texted her family, inviting them to her next showcase. This pivotal moment encapsulated a deeper question. Would they accept her, or would fear tie her back to her old life? The night lingered before her, rich with possibilities. Would she seize this opportunity and discover the depths of her potential, or haunt the halls of uncertainty, trapped between the artist she wanted to be and the maid she had always been? The stage was set. The next step awaited her. How would she confront the voices from her past that threatened to undermine her newfound resolve? The time had come to uncover the artist hidden deep inside her, ready to challenge her fears head-on. The next day unfolded like a fragile blossom, each hour a potential awakening. Sarah woke with the sun streaming through her window, its warmth coaxing her from the veils of sleep. There was a gnawing excitement in her stomach, mingling with the remnants of her doubt. Today would mark a crucial turning point, one that could either illuminate her path forward or cast her back into the shadows of self-criticism. As she stood before the mirror, applying a light touch of makeup, her mind replayed the woman's encouraging words. We need voices like yours. Those words resonated with a newfound vigor, and for the first time, she felt a hint of pride in her reflection, a woman not just showcasing her work, but preparing to declare her identity. But as she dressed, the whispers of her past crept back in uninvited. Faces from her childhood danced in her memory, reminders of who she once was. Every interaction sparked her anxiety. She could almost hear Amanda's snide remarks taunting her from the recesses of her mind. The lies she had absorbed over the years screamed that this was folly. Yet somewhere within the cacophony was a quieter voice, urging her to push through. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped into her day, each action brimming with intention. She meticulously prepared her artworks, unrolling canvas after canvas, studying each piece like a map to her soul. The vibrant colors, the chaotic brushstrokes, they were all fragments of her story, each telling a tale of struggle and triumph, of beauty and unyielding perseverance. Today she would share these pieces with the world. At the cafe, the atmosphere buzzed with an energy she had not anticipated. Patrons filled the room, an eclectic mix of artists, supporters, and curious onlookers. As she arranged her display, she felt a trembling anticipation intermingled with her nerves. Would they understand her story? Would her art resonate, or would she feel the sting of silence? The woman from yesterday emerged through the crowd, her smile brightening the space. "Are you ready?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. Sarah nodded, but the butterflies in her stomach flitted faster. Then, as if on cue, someone called from a corner, "Hey, is that your work?" With a nod, Sarah turned, eyes wide, her heart pounding in her chest. The onlookers approached, and her voice caught in her throat. What if they didn't see what she saw? What if they didn't find the beauty she felt in her creations? Gathering her courage, she spoke up, each word tinged with underlying gravity. "I created this to share my journey, the struggles and the joys, a reflection of experiences." She gestured toward the art with a sweeping motion, feeling a shift in the atmosphere as more people drew near. A young man stepped forward, eyes alive with intrigue. "What do you mean by your journey?" His question felt loaded, and Sarah paused. This was a moment that could either affirm her commitment or plunge her into deeper doubt. She swallowed hard, thoughts racing. "I mean, each piece reflects a part of who I am. I've doubted myself for so long, afraid to embrace my true voice. These canvases represent my fight against that fear." As she spoke, she felt a warmth blooming within her, a shared understanding emanating from the crowd. The woman stood at her side, bolstering her resolve. Art has the power to connect us, to bridge gaps where words often fail. Sarah has a story that deserves to be told. With her chest tight but her spirit invigorated, Sarah made a decision in that moment. She refused to let those echoes from her past drown out her voice today. Here, among strangers who were leaning in, eager to hear her story, she grasped the truth of her own resilience. The dread of criticism transformed into a drive to express herself fully. But as conversations swelled and connections flourished, Sarah's mind flickered with uncertainty. What if her past came crashing down upon her? What if Amanda or others she had feared appeared unexpectedly, hurling insults back into her psyche? The weight of vulnerability pressed down. But now, armed with the desire to rise, it ignited a fiercer determination. As she engaged in discussion, a thought, a fragment of her confidence slipped away. Would they still accept her once they learned of her past? As if to surrender to that fear, she held back from revealing the full scope of her struggles. Just then, the young man turned back to her. "So what happens next?" he asked, forcing Sarah to confront a choice. Would she unveil her deeper truths or continue to dance around the edges of her narrative? The world awaited, hanging in the balance, and in this moment, her next courageous act loomed large. The conversation halted as she contemplated her response, the room humming with eager anticipation. What would Sarah choose to reveal? Would she embrace the potential for connection or retreat into the safety of silence? The silence stretched taut, a liminal space filled with possibility. Sarah's heart thundered, drowning out the surrounding chatter. She could feel the weight of their expectation pressing in on her, amplifying her doubts but also igniting a flicker of courage deep within her. In that moment, she became acutely aware of her own capacity for bravery. Taking an unsteady breath, she began to untangle the threads of her story. "What happens next?" she repeated to herself, her voice steadier than she felt. "What happens next is that I stop hiding. I have struggled with self-acceptance for so long," she said, her words pouring out like molten gold. "These canvases are not just colors and shapes. They are parts of my soul, a testament to the battles I've fought internally." The eyes of the onlookers widened, a collective intake of breath, and for a fleeting moment, she felt a sense of relief as if she had cast off centuries of baggage. Yet, deep down, the familiar specter of fear began to rise. Would they recoil? Would they see her vulnerabilities as weakness? She pressed on, determined to confront that voice. "I used to let negative words define me. I fell into a spiral of doubt, where my self-worth was measured by someone else's approval. It took me a long time to realize that only I can determine my value." Sarah locked eyes with the young man, seeking a soul who might reflect her resolve, and in his gaze, she found an ember of understanding. Encouraged, she continued, feeling her heart rate slow as she bared her truth. "Every brushstroke was a rebellion against the dismissals of my past. Each layer became a way to reclaim my narrative. The crowds were leaning in, their expressions shifting from curiosity to empathic engagement. It dawned on her that her truth might not frighten them but rather inspire them. Vulnerability had become her ally, a gateway for deeper connection, rather than an open door to judgment. Art has the power to heal, she declared, articulating the core of her journey. For me, it has become a sanctuary. It is where the chaos quiets down, and beauty emerges through the struggle. The warmth spreading through her felt like a beacon, drawing others in. Their attentiveness mirrored a shared vulnerability. They weren't just spectators, but part of a human experience that bound them together. As she spoke, a subtle shift occurred in the atmosphere. The room transformed from a gallery of casual curiosity into a haven of understanding. Sarah caught glimpses of nods and soft smiles, reflections of her journey that resonated within them. Just as she began to feel a surge of hope, a shadow flickered at the edge of her mind. What if someone sabotaged this moment? Before she could dwell, a woman in the back chimed in. But what about your fear? The fear that Amanda's words echo back in your mind? The question sliced through her newfound clarity, reminding her of her past. Sarah hesitated, the nerves creeping back. She felt the room tense in anticipation, awaiting her response. It still exists, she admitted finally, a tremor in her voice. But now, instead of allowing it to shackle me, I use it as a motivator. My art is a reminder that I can rise in spite of it. The honesty of those words seemed to resonate even deeper, stirring murmurs of agreement among the crowd. She had confronted her demons, but an unexamined thread of her story still loomed large. Her eyes darted toward the woman who had first encouraged her. Would they now accept her unfiltered self? Now that you've opened up, what's next for you? The young man inquired again, this time layered with renewed curiosity. A wave of realization washed over her with a charge. Her art was not just a reflection. It was a call to arms for other women battling similar doubts, women like her. Could she take this a step further? Could she transform her fear into a purpose-driven mission, offering space for others to share their stories too? As the thoughts crystallized, the first thread of a plan unfurled. There was potential for something greater than herself, an opportunity to guide others toward finding their voices. But just when the chaos of her thoughts began to settle, a new voice cut through the crowd from behind her. You think today is just about you, Sarah? It was Amanda. The moment froze, tension thickening as Sarah turned, confronting the echo of her past. The air hung heavy with uncertainty and fear, an unexpected confrontation that threatened to derail everything she had started to build. Would she stand firm in her newfound identity, or would Amanda's presence unravel her again? The room waited, holding its breath for the next act in this unfolding drama. As Amanda's words untied the knot of emotions within Sarah, the room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for either confrontation or retreat. Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her, a familiar wave of self-doubt threatening to surmount the fragile confidence she had just built. Recollecting the fire ignited within her, Sarah straightened her posture, drawing deeply from her reservoir of courage. Yes, today is about me, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Each word felt like rising up against her past, one of invisibility, of weakness shaped by fear's relentless grip. The gathered crowd absorbed the charged exchange, sensing that this confrontation was not merely between sisters, but a duel between identity and expectation. Amanda's sneer was palpable, a stark reminder of the chains Sarah had fought to break free from. Oh please, Amanda scoffed, striding forward. You think just because you paint a few canvases you can call yourself an artist? What about your responsibilities to our family? The sting of those familiar words jabbed at her, but she clung to the newfound strength blooming inside. I am still devoted to our family, Sarah asserted, her voice rich with conviction. But I have to be devoted to myself too. My voice matters just as much as anyone else's. By creating, I'm not abandoning you. I'm growing into who I've always meant to be. For the first time, Sarah witnessed a flicker of surprise on Amanda's face, an acknowledgement of her courage that she perhaps hadn't anticipated. The audience seemed to lean in closer, inviting the energy of this pivotal moment to release the tension binding them. As Amanda opened her mouth to retort, she faltered. You're setting yourself up for failure, she said finally, though the venom was less pronounced. No, Sarah interjected, her voice now infused with the strength of her journey. I'm setting myself up for discovery. Failure doesn't scare me anymore. Hiding does. She took a step forward, every eye in the room fixated on this confrontation. A woman in the crowd stepped forward, nodding in agreement. Art is about exploration, about pushing against boundaries, she said, supporting Sarah's burgeoning identity. You're not alone, Sarah. Many of us understand. That moment crystallized change in the atmosphere. Amanda's skepticism clashed with the collective support surrounding Sarah. Vulnerability transformed into validation. The onlookers began to murmur approval, emboldening her. But before Sarah could fully relish in her moment, she felt the residual specter of self-doubt linger. Would she truly remain steadfast against Amanda's disapproval? Could she navigate the delicate balance between her art and familial obligations, or should she brace herself for a continuation of this conflict? Art won't pay the bills, Amanda insisted, but her argument felt less grounded, increasingly defensive in face of the positive tide shifting within the room. Perhaps, Sarah replied, but it can provide purpose. It can spark connection beyond what we've known. My artistic journey might even strengthen our family. Each word was a stepping stone, a bridge she was learning to build, not just for herself but for those who might follow. Suddenly emboldened, Sarah turned back to the crowd. This is for everyone who has ever felt silenced or forgotten, she said, voice inflected with intensity. Art is our voice, our choice to break free together. As she pulled back to face Amanda, she surrendered to the excitement rippling through her, as she felt the audience's solidarity rallying around her. I want to apologize for wanting to be seen, she declared, an affirmation echoing against the confines of her previous limitations. You may not understand me, but you cannot suppress me. It was an announcement not only to Amanda but to herself. Retreating slightly, Amanda faltered but masked it with indignation. This isn't over. With that, she stormed off, leaving behind a palpable tension hanging in the air. But Sarah's heart raced not with fear but liberation. Each witness in the cafe stood united, and for the first time she felt seen, truly seen. As conversation swirled around her, admiration and encouragement poured in. These moments, this culmination of revealing her completed journey, made the uncertainty worthwhile. I didn't know how powerful every part of my story could be until I shared it, she told the young man, smiling wide now. This gathering has ignited a fire within me I didn't know existed. And now you have a community that wants to nurture that flame, he stated. Their conversation transformed into an expression of shared excitement, aspirations revealed, and connections made. Perhaps, she pondered aloud, I could host workshops for others like me. People who think they're only caregivers or workers. We could explore art together. I want to create a space for collaboration and shared expression. I love that idea, he responded, enthusiasm brimming in his voice. Each word swung open new possibilities, each new thought marking a step away from her past roles, painting a future rich with significance. The journey ahead began to unfold like vivid strokes on her canvas. No longer clinging to a singular identity, Sarah was armed with ambition to publicly share her art, to nurture her role as an artist, and perhaps, to foster a sense of advocacy for others silenced by fear. With every intention now solidified, she realized that transformation was not just about sharing her art. It was about cultivating a thriving community where creative voices could flourish, an ecosystem brought to life through her own metamorphosis. In that transformative cafe, satisfaction settled deep within her. She no longer needed to choose between being Sarah or the maid. She could seamlessly embody both, all while paving a new path for those still concealed between shadows of expectation. The world lay vibrant before her, and Sarah felt anchored in her truth for the first time, ready to seize the journey ahead, proclaim her artistry, and uplift those who needed to be heard. She had conquered her internal struggles, emerged from the shadows, and attained a voice that truly mattered. Art was no longer just an act of rebellion. It had become an unwavering pillar of identity, creativity, and connection. Now, with the first steps forged, she would continue to breathe life into her canvas, her newly blossomed soul. The ball was rolling. The time for her to share her world was now. It was in this moment that she knew she was destined to paint her legacy. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your appreciation. Comment with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let's keep the conversation alive. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Support this journey and be part of the transformation.